The Cleaner is about the life of an extreme interventionist. Now, you might be asking yourself, what is an extreme interventionist? I asked myself the same question when I first read the script. And what it is a guy named William Banks who, as a former heroin addict himself, has now devoted his life to, through a pact with God that he's made, finding and then helping other addicts recover. And the writing is really fresh. It's obviously, because of its subject matter, an exploration of some fairly dark material. But at the end of the day, in that exploration, there's always the possibility of in the examination of a second chance. So there's a level of optimism to it, too. You know, what struck me about it is, aside from the great writing, was that not knowing what an extreme interventionist was, as it was explained to me by the producers, I discovered that, in fact, it's based on a real guy who, coincidentally, is one of the producers on the show. So that, for me, was sort of the clincher.
Did you get to meet the producer who this was based off of?
I did, and in fact, he is on our set daily. And you know, but when I first got to know him, and when we shot the pilot some months ago, because of the inherent gravitas that he carries with him, and the fact that he is this sort of no-nonsense guy, I sort of kept him at arm's length and sort of picked up on his kind of his mannerisms and the way he carried himself more than anything else. He scared me a little bit at first, to be honest.
Why is that?
Well, because, you know, he's a guy who has really been there and done that. You know, he's spent time in prison. He's not a guy who suffers fools very easily. And so, you know, I kind of had an appreciation for this sense of mystery. He has this sort of natural aura that has a sense of mystery to it and deep experience. And I sort of wanted to keep him held in that kind of esteem, as opposed to getting to know him and how he sees himself, which is as a regular Joe. You know, even though he sees himself in that way, I refuse to, because at the end of the day, he is a pretty heroic individual. He saves people's lives, as he continues to, even while working on this show.
Was it hard for you to tackle this type of character, this sort of darker character than you've played in the past?
Not really, because, you know, in the show's exploration of its subject matter, if we don't have necessarily a personal experience with addiction, certainly I know for myself, within my own family, my network of friends and people I work with, that it's an all too common problem, an issue, and has affected me on a personal level deeply. So, you know, at the end of the day, of having lived a life as a man in my early 40s, it's not terribly difficult to tap into what's real and help use it in my dramatization of this fictional character.
Do you think this type of show would work on broadcast network TV?
I think it's a good question. Ultimately, my answer would have to be no, and that's a nod really to A&E and to the other cable networks out there who are broadening their horizons really with more hard-hitting drama. The writing is fresh. It's definitely edgy, and it doesn't really pull any punches in its exploration of the subject matter. You know, at the end of the day, the character I play and the team of recovered addicts he surrounds himself with, theirs are not lackluster lives. They're really workmen, but at the same time, you know, they find themselves in different worlds, whether it's at a racetrack or in the world of Hollywood or getting on a private jet to rescue some oil baron's daughter. I mean, they're a kind of A-team, if you will, but they're only in the business of saving lives.
Now, it's been over a decade since you've been Detective Curtis. Do people still come up to you, though, and call you by that name?
You know, Avi, there are people that still think I'm on that show, which is
oh, my.
odd. Well, because the show is so often rerun. I mean, you can find it on television 4 or 5 times a day, and the show is ongoing. I mean, as you well know, I think Law and Order is into its 18th year. Dick Wolf is trying to break the Gunsmoke record, and I think he'll succeed. But really, it's a testament to the quality of the writing of that show. And that's what excites me about The Cleaner, is that the writing in this particular series is really, really fresh. And that procedural element that Law and Order enjoys and has made it so popular exists in our own show too, but it's balanced with this really personal home life. And so that combination of the procedural and this the opportunity really to get to know the characters in a really intimate way makes for a really multidimensional opportunity for me as an actor, which I'm really deeply appreciative of.
Do you have a favorite memory of Jerry Orbach?
I have many, actually, and I would dare say that any of the good jokes, if I have any at all came from Jerry Orbach. One of the best pieces of advice he ever gave me, and it seems kind of silly, but it's an insight into the kind of person he was. He was always quick with a joke. And in regards to shooting a scene, he said, no matter what the director asks you to do in the next take, always do the next take louder, because then he can hear you better and he thinks he's getting what he wants. So that kind of applies to a lot of different things in life. Give people the impression they're getting what they want, and you'll make them happy.
You know, it's been a while since we've seen you on TV. I was thinking about it, and I think the last thing I saw you in was that show E-Ring,
Right.
which had a lot of promise, but unfortunately it didn't go anywhere. Were you disappointed that show wasn't able to take off?
Well, you know, when you put so much into an effort like that, yeah, you are disappointed. But at the end of the day, I think for as much promise as that show had, and there was quite a bit in the fact that director Taylor Hackford did the pilot. It was produced by Jerry Bruckheimer, and the pilot episode was written very well. That show, at the end of the day, I think met its demise, like a lot of shows, because it takes a while to figure out what it is. And you know, the fact that the war, the real war that is waging in Iraq, was something that didn't help, obviously, because it's difficult to dramatize and create something that's reflective of what's going on in real life and make it somehow palatable. So with this new-faced opportunity we have with The Cleaner, it's something that, in terms of its exploration of the subject matter, that's unfortunately all too familiar to many people out there. You know, addiction in general is a taboo that's not necessarily discussed in polite society, and yet arguably touches all of us. And so our hope is that in creating good drama for this new network is that, on this new series, is that that people might have a moment of self-reflection and hopefully glean some kind of hope from it.